There is no replacing a person of wisdom. There are mines for silver and places where gold is refined. Iron is taken from the earth, and copper is smelted from the rock. But where can wisdom be found? Where is the source of understanding? There is no replacing a man of wisdom. My friends, we have two main responsibilities today. We are here to bury our loved one, and we are here to honor him with our words, to deliver eulogies. Around those two very central acts, we have some prayers and some songs. We are here today to pay our final respects to Don Shuman. He is survived by his wife Sue, his sons Dennis and Douglas's partner Allison. He is survived by grandchildren, Nicholas, Alexa, Allison, Lauren, Adam and Adam's wife Lauren. By great-grandchildren, Luke and Lucy. Don was born in Philadelphia and moved to Flemington with his family when he was young. He must have been about 5 when he moved here. Don grew up to be a pillar of this community. He built a successful real estate business with his dad, then went on his own. Much of what we recognize about Flemington today is Don's legacy to us. Don enjoyed food. Don enjoyed socializing with his friends. Don really enjoyed his work. Don loved his family, who are here today, and perhaps they are the truest legacy Don leaves us. Don lived 96 full, rich years. This was a life well lived. In those 96 years, he left an indelible mark. He will be sorely missed. Where Don was, there is now emptiness. And we're here today to sit with that. Adonai is my shepherd, I shall not want, giving me a repose in green meadows, leading me beside the still waters to revive my spirit, guiding me on the right path, for that is God's essence. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no harm, for you are with me. Your staff and your rod comfort me. You prepare a banquet for me in the presence of my foes. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Surely goodness and kindness shall be my portion all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of Adonai forever. Today is the day Don is entering the house of Adonai forever and ever. May he rest in peace. I'd like to call on his granddaughter Allison to share some words with us. You just gonna what? Oh.
You definitely want to wipe after me. I'm snotty. Thank you so much.
And you're also going to just speak here. The two will pick up the sound.
Thank you. So I'm definitely gonna cry. So bear with me. It's kind of funny because in my work, I'm a doctor. I deal with death very often, very often. And when patients die, we have questions, but the questions are not anything like the kinds of questions that you have when you lose someone you love. And I have been incredibly lucky that I have not had to suffer loss like this really much in my life. I lost one grandmother a few years ago, and that was my first grandparent to die, and now my Papa Don, who was truly like a second father to me. My grandfather was a good man. Not a perfect man, but I would argue better than that, a good man. A man who believed in and tried to do the right thing, who always worried more about taking care of others than himself. I like to believe I see sparks of his spirit in myself, and I'm indebted to him for teaching me generosity, a ludicrous work ethic, to have passion for my chosen path. My grandfather was someone you always knew you could count on for support, advice, and honesty. He was a rock, unwavering, steady. That's how I'll remember him. I'm so grateful for the years I had with him, to get to know him, and for all of the memories of him in my life. When I was really little, maybe 5 or 6, 7, he used to drive my brother and I to school sometimes, and we would take bets in the car about what time we would get to school. Whoever lost got a truck full of garbage, and of course he walked away with loads of imaginary garbage every time. He was the original foodie. He gave us an early appreciation for amazing dinners. Lots of Chinese food, lots of lobster. 2-year-olds aren't supposed to be enjoying lobster. And I always knew that he would do anything for us. And that knowledge was a sense of safety I was never able to truly thank him for enough. I'm especially grateful for the times I got to spend with him as an adult. We shared a visit to the Getty Museum when he came to California to visit me, where I had to force him to let me wheel him around in a wheelchair. He said, no, no, no. And I said, well, there's 2 options. Either I'm going to wheel you or you're going to wheel me. So he accepted his fate. I hadn't realized before that trip what a love of art he had. And I'll never forget watching his face light up really, truly with childlike joy as we went through the rooms. Up until the end of his life, my grandfather taught me to find the bright side in whatever I might be facing. You can never call him even through all of this and get him to say anything other than, you know, all things considered, it could be worse. That's how he was. Never one to feel bad for himself, never one to complain. I hope that I can live a life that does half as much good for those around me as his did. I was looking for a poem to share, and then I stumbled across this quote. It's a quote I've actually known for a long time. Like a very, very blaspheming Jewish child, I have it tattooed, actually, part of it on my body. It's most often attributed to Ralph Waldo Emerson, but who knows who really said it. And I think it really encompasses how I see my grandfather and maybe how he chose to approach life. What is success? To laugh often and much, to win the respect of intelligent people and the affection of children, to earn the appreciation of honest critics and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate the beauty, to find the best in others, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. By every measure you can imagine, my grandfather succeeded. I am so proud to have been his granddaughter and to have shared in the life that he made. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's always, as Rabbi so eloquently explained, it's two duties today. I know some of you have some prepared remarks, others you're just hearing for this for the first time, and I always tell everybody, you come from the heart. You cannot say anything wrong. So, who would like to come forward now?
Yeah, Dennis asked me this morning if I wanted to say something. I really don't, but I have to. So, I mean, all of us know Don, and I'll be brief. He was a man for all seasons, definitely. He didn't like saying no to anybody, which, I saw time and again. And I always thought of him as is this working correctly?
Just get a little closer.
Oh, closer?
Yeah, that's better.
Yeah, okay. So forget everything I said before that you couldn't hear. So I always thought of him as the Energizer Bunny. He was going. He would go and we'd have a pile of things on his desk, and he said, I have to get through this pile. And he would go till 6 o'clock at night. And he said at night, I just fade. But during the day, he was like an Energizer Bunny. And no matter what, he always had time for each person. You call him 10 o'clock in the morning, he said, I'll get back to you. He might call you late the next afternoon, but he would get back to you. I mean, he was always good like that. And I always thought of as a kid, you see these westerns with the cowboys and the 6 guns. Every time I saw Don with his belt and his 2 cell phones, I said, he's back on the train. And he'd answer both of them at the same time. And he'd never leave a call go. He'd be meeting with somebody or on the phone. He'd take another call. I said, Don, leave it. He couldn't do it, just couldn't do it. And driving, I used to feel so guilty. I'd meet him and we'd go places, we had an appointment or whatever, and he always wanted to drive. Here I am sitting there, a shotgun, and he's driving. I felt guilty, but he wanted to drive, and he drove, I'd say pretty late, in life. And through Don, I met so many people, networking, so forth, people that meant a lot to me and my family, business-wise. We did. I mean, I'll just mention a few that we became pretty close. Bill Bockenberg, Bill Vogt, and Mark Mulligan. We did a lot of things together, but it's all through Don. Without Don, I would never have known these people. And now I just want to end by repeating a story. And I'll just interject. I'm so happy my wife and I went down to Florida 2 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago today, we visited with Don for an hour. And, we were so happy that we did. At any rate, I had a long talk with Don on the phone, and I guess later that day or the next day, he's talking with Dennis. And Dennis texted, I have it on text, it's not me making up these words, Dennis could verify. Dennis said, you get a kick out of this. Dad asked me, he said, where am I going to be buried? In Flemington, I assume. Dennis said, correct, yes. And he said, what time of day will it be? So Dennis said, I don't know. And he said, well, you've got it. I figured it would be morning, but you have to have it late morning because Myrna and Bob have a long trip to be able to get there, thinking of Myrna and myself. So with that, I ended, and I think we all have sort of thoughts and feelings of Don in the same vein. But thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, Mr. Raskin. I think we all can picture those 2 phones, but you got to add the Bluetooth. The Bluetooth wasn't hanging, Thank you so much. Who would like to come forward next?
Thank you, Bob.
Hi, my name is Bill Vogt. My family had a business a couple doors down from Don, and I got to know him very well around 1986 after my father passed away. Don kind of became like a surrogate father to me, and we've been great friends. Had many dinners with him and Sue over the years, known Dennis and Doug, and gotten to meet all his grandkids. When I first called Don to do something for me after my father died, I didn't really know him. I knew who he was. He was the guy that owned half of Flemington. At least that's what everybody said. He had this knack of making you feel so comfortable and so important and like he cared so much. And then you found out that was really him. That was who he was. And everybody that he did business with that I know of became lifelong friends with him. He went and wanted to go to dinner, lunch. He enjoyed being around everybody. I became so comfortable and felt so close to him that a few short years later, I invited him to my wedding, and I think he was a little surprised. But he was a unique man. I love you, Don, and I'll miss you.
Thank you. My name is Tariq Sohail. I'm with the WBM. We also own Northlands. The reason we are in Flemington is because of Don Shuman. We actually call him Grandpa. His immediate family knows. Back in '98, we were the first one to open a dollar store next to ShopRite, and that was thanks to Grandpa that he found us a place, and that's how we met with him. But such a unique person that we met since then. I think within a year or so, we realized that he's very unique, trustworthy. As somebody mentioned, he will go out of his way to help anybody and everybody, and everything that he could, he will do that for us. And he's the only person beside our family member that he's had our signature on the bank. He can go in there and sign for our checks. We could trust him that much. He had a blank check, keep it with him. He can sign however we want. It's not that many people that you can be that comfortable and trust that much. And we have so many stories. I can tell for Grandpa. Whenever we will go walk anywhere, he will, make me feel like that, I'm very slow. He will always walk faster than all of us. He will climb like, higher than us. And we will tell him, Grandpa, we want to be like you at your age. And my elder brother, Sohail, obviously he's the one who originally met with him. And he's overseas. Unfortunately, he could not come. But he was really disappointed. He was sorry to hear that Grandpa left. And he said, make sure you go there and you give their family condolences from everybody. If it wasn't for because of Grandpa, we will not be here. We will not be in this town. And again, we went from the business relation to personal relation to family relation. And then we will sit down and he will basically teach us. We were still his kids. That's why, he was Grandpa. But he will tell us, simply, guys, work hard, be honest, and we'll go wherever you want to go. There's no limits on there. And we actually thought we work 16, 17 hours a week, a day, and almost under 14 hours a week. We thought we were working hard until we met Don Shuman. He will put it make a shame because he's always working. You call him, like somebody mentioned earlier, 2 phones, and he will never miss a call. And if he misses it, then he will say, sorry, I missed your call. He will call you right back. And at the age that he has, in his 90s, being this responsible, being top of everything. When we bought this Northlands, that was 3 years ago, he was 93. And he closed the deal for us. He did all the paperwork and everything. How many people that 93, they're working in, actively working in there. He was doing it not because he needed money, we all know that, because he loved it and he wanted to help people. And I think that was the reason kept him moving. Grandpa, we miss you. We're always gonna miss you. And as our belief is, there's a heaven afterward, and we pray that God takes you to heaven because you deserve it. You never hurt anybody.
Thank you, Teresa.
There you go.
Thank you, Tariq. Who would like to come forward next?
Hi, I'm Brian Horvath. Mr. Shuman made me promise I didn't have to get up, but we all know how that goes. I had a truly great experience with Mr. Shuman. I met him as a dumb college kid, just trying to figure out what to do with life. First thing I do is sit in his office over on Main Street, and he hands me this stupid test, and I'm looking at him like, I thought I was coming to just talk to somebody. He hands me this test, and I'm sitting there, and I'm scratching my head, and I go and I do it, and he just looks at me and he goes, let's go get some lunch. I'm like, no, I want to know how I did. He goes, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay, that's great. So we end up going to lunch over at the diner, and I just remember I was in college and he still kept ordering and ordering, and we sat there for hours. Then he looks at me and he goes, I got to go back to the office, but I really don't want to. And from that moment on, I knew I had a really great mentor and a friend, and every time that I called him, he would always answer, like all of you are saying. But when I talked to him, he taught me a bunch of really good life lessons, and it was, don't accept anything less than you deserve, and always fight for what you want. So I thank Grandpa for that, and I'm going to miss him like crazy.
So Dan, I really don't want to do this, but I learned from Don the last couple of years how far back our families went. Don learned, and with his brother Irving, learned how to milk cows on my grandfather's farm. Don sold both of my grandfather's farm. My grandparents had a property on 202, a house. The state tried to come through when they dualized 202, and they tried not to take the house. Literally, you walk out the front door and you walk into the highway, and Don made sure that the state took their property. In the last few years, this is my son, Alex, Ryan, Sydney, come on, Sid, and my son Logan, and he's been a grandparent to them. My parents passed away quite some time ago. And I remember Dennis said, can you pick my dad up at the auto body place? I said, sure. I was like, what was it, February? January. Well, January. It's freezing out. I'm freezing to death. Here's this guy running around in a windbreaker. I go, are you kidding me? Seriously. So, but as I'd like to just say that he really became a grandfather to my kids. And this is a hard part because my mother passed away a few years back. She was like a mother to my grandmother. The grandmother of my kids was more like a mother. And my daughter, Sydney, I asked her, I said, what would you want me to say to the people? And she said, tell them that she was part of our family. And that's Don Shuman. He's part of our family. I love you, Don.
The main memory that I'm always going to have of Grandpa was going out to dinner with him. First time ever really meeting him. And he's telling me the toothpaste story. I don't know if any of you guys have heard of the toothpaste story. And I'm trying to wrap my head around this. I was telling my dad this story a little while ago. And I was like, well, what if the toothpaste comes out in different, measurements? He's like, no. But, just an amazing guy. I mean, same thing right after college. He was, trying to help me out. I was trying to explore real estate, and, super experienced guy, and just took me under his wing. I'm really going to miss his stories.
You have to know the toothpaste story.
Huh? I don't know it as well, but yeah.
Nobody knows.
Yeah.
Nobody gets it.
But, yeah, I'm going to miss his stories, sharing ice cream with him, and, he's a great man. Gonna miss you, Pop.
Hi, I'm Sydney. I just want to say that Don Shuman was definitely a grandfather figure to me. Almost definitely going out to dinners with him, and hanging out in Florida with him. I definitely have a lot of memories, and I'll miss him very much.
Thank you all. Thank you. So I just want to take this moment before our last two speakers come forward to remind everyone that immediately following our services today, you're welcome and encouraged to continue to share all these beautiful memories at the Flemington Jewish Community Center, where the family has the meal of consolation set up. So immediately after departing the cemetery today, you're all welcome and encouraged, strongly encouraged, to go directly to the synagogue. There's plenty of parking there, and as soon as you head in the main doors right to the left, there'll be people showing you where to go. You can just go right on in. So I don't want to we had to flip a coin to who was going to go first. We figured the youngest was going to go first. Adam, you? Okay. So we're going to have Dennis come forward to share some thoughts about his father, and then Doug will conclude our time.
Thanks. Thanks, DJ. So, I wrote a eulogy back in August. In August, my dad had gotten COVID. Some of you know that, and he got it pretty bad. And there was no question the end was there. And I called DJ and started making the arrangements and wrote his eulogy. And my father did a typical Don Shuman, which was to pull a rabbit out of the hat. And one day he sat and just started talking to me for 10 minutes, where one or two words was all I was hearing before that. And I was like, oh my God. What was amazing was that just a day or two before this, I was talking with Diane, and I was in line at Publix, and I said, if he pulls through this, I'm getting him a Superman costume, cape and all, because there's no question this is a man who is indestructible. Absent kryptonite, nothing will take him. As I walked away from the register, a guy walked past me wearing a Superman shirt. And I said, if I've ever seen a sign, this is it. A few days later is when he came back. And he was doing well, and he finally was doing well enough to again go out with me for dinner, to go get to the hearing aid place, get a haircut, back to what was our new normal. Dad had been with me for about 3 years. As John said, he drove him to the airport for his last official trip down, although Dad did come back with me a couple of times. And when Dad got down, he was in the hospital 2 days after he arrived. He had pneumonia. Got out. A few days later, he was back in again. This time because the medication for his prostate cancer, which he got in 1989, had kicked him to the curb. And we decided at that point to stop the medication, knowing that there would be a day that there would be a consequence, but that quality over quantity was what it was about. That's what he wanted. He said, I'd rather live less and live well. Well, that's exactly what he did. His quality of life had improved, but near the end, he was sitting and not doing anything, and he felt that his purpose had ended. And I tried to explain to him that he had more to do, but he didn't want to hear about it. He said he had enough. I was going to tell everybody if I start crying to laugh, so if I do start crying, I better hear laughter. It'll help me. Thanks, DJ. Thank you, Josh. My dad was everything that everyone has said and more. He was the rock. He was the foundation. He was everything you could ask for. Come on, guys. Don't let me down. He really was. It doesn't mean we always agreed. There were plenty of times that we got upset with each other, we yelled at each other, but we always came back together. And Dad lived with me for almost 3 years, and he felt bad. He said, I'm taking you away from living your life. And I said, this is what I choose. This is me giving back to you. And I enjoy it. It's my new normal. I've lived a life of new normals, and it's okay. And I love you, and I tried to make every day for him the best it could be. And I think I did. And his last moments, I was there. I was with him. And as hard as it was, I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. It was special. I had time with him after he passed to sit and hold him and talk to him. He may physically be gone, and it'll be a while before I get past that. But he'll never be gone. He'll be in my heart. There's a hole that will always be his. and nobody will ever fill it the way he did. He was a great grandfather, a great dad, a great grandfather. Even before this, when he was just coming out of COVID, he said to me, "Dennis, go get my checkbook. I want you to write checks to all the grandchildren and children for their birthdays that are coming up in the next couple months." And I wrote them and signed them, and I said, "You can sign them." He said, "I can't. You sign them." He said, "Just make sure they go out." And after he came out of the COVID month, he said, "You need to go write the check." I said, "I already did." He goes, "Why?" I said, "You told me to." He said, "When did I do that?" I said, "In the middle of COVID." He goes, "Okay. So we need to make sure it gets out." And I had Adam's check sitting on my counter for over a month, and I had Luke's check and Lucy's checks sitting and waiting. I'm not sure. It may still be there. Doug, check Allie. She had a bug crawling up her. Dad was caring. He was giving. He was loving. But what he loved more than anything, other than his work, which came second to none, was food. And that was an absolute. He enjoyed it tremendously. And was it his 90th or 89th birthday that I took him to New York, took him to the Palm. And as we're driving to the Palm, we stopped for gas. And I had asked him, "You sure you want to go to the Palm for dinner?" He goes, "Yeah, it's either that or Costco hot dogs." I said, "All right." Adam was with me, and we pulled into Costco, and I said, "Adam, fill up the car. I've got to run inside for a minute." And I went inside, and I got a dozen hot dogs and buns and had him pack them separately, and came out, walked behind the car, and put him in the trunk. He always had the styrofoam insulated container so he could take food home. And we got to New York. I dropped them off at the Palm and pulled into the garage and took the hot dogs out. They were already seated. I asked the hostess to put them together, and when his dinner was supposed to be delivered, bring this out. And they came out with a silver platter with a lid, and they opened it up, and his face just dropped. And he looked and he stared at it. And without breaking into a smile, he said, "I want my dinner." I said, "It's okay, Dad." I said, "You said you wanted Costco hot." "I want my dinner." I said, all right, they're going to bring it. We gave the staff the hot dogs, and they brought out, I think, a steak for him. And we had a wonderful night. It was a great night. The Horvaths were there with me. I don't remember who else was there. I think Nafis was there. Kev was there. Rickman's were. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you were there, Kev. Yep. So it was a fun night, expensive night, but it was a fun night, and I'll never forget that. I won't forget the ice cream that John and Ryan and Alex and Sydney and Logan and I would take Dad down to Kilwin's in Deerfield and just sit and talk and have ice cream together and go for dinner. And I have to say, of all the people, other than family, that he had an affinity for, Ryan was it. Ryan was the bright light that could make his day come to life in a way that no other person did. And you brought him such joy and such pleasure. Thank you.
We got him a 10-year supply of his favorite candy.
Yes, he actually ordered him an auto deliver of licorice nibs. Ryan is a special guy. Dad, next job, watch over. I love you. Oh, and the reason I chose next to last,
You're on.
come on,
Yeah.
is because you never want to follow a top act. My brother's a showman, so I figured you might as well get it in before everyone pays attention to him.
And without further ado, we're going to have Doug come forward to share some of his thoughts.
So first, thanks everybody for coming. This is a remarkable turnout for a guy who lived long enough to see most of his friends gone. So thank you. I think my brother set your expectations way too high. There are some people here who know me, who went to school with me. There are people who know me because I'm in their lives now, and they all know that I talk a lot. My dad and I, especially the past few years while he's been at my brother's place, would talk on the phone. I try to talk to him every day, and I would talk long enough that he would start to fall asleep on the phone. And now and then he would complain about the fact that he wasn't able to sleep at night. And I told him the solution was easy. He just had to call me when he was ready to go to bed. I'd be glad to talk him to sleep. I have thought about what it would be like when my father was gone. And he taught me a lot of things. He taught me things like, if you don't have time to do it right the first time, how do you have time to fix it up later?
I wanted to say that. Thank you for doing that.
I could go on and on about what he taught me. He taught me how to ride a bicycle. I think he was proud of me at times, and I know he was proud of my music and things like that. Most of what I have to say is for my dad, and it's in my head and in my heart. And everybody has talked about what a great man he was, what a great guy he was, and he was terrific. So I'm gonna actually, for maybe the first time, not talk too much. I'm just gonna say, thank you, Dad. I used to tell him every time we would talk, I would say, love you, Dad. Talk to you later, or if not later, then tomorrow. And I was realizing that one of the things that I was going to miss was, I said, I'm never going to be able to talk to him again. And then I realized that I'm going to be able to talk to him anytime I want. He just won't be there to answer, but I know what he'd say. Mostly, uh-huh. Uh-huh. I'm getting tired. So, Dad, you rest in peace. I love you, and I'll talk to you soon.
El Molei Rachamim Shochein Bamromim Hamtzei Menuchat Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina B'Ma'alot Kedoshim Torim Kizoa Harakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Niftareinu Shalach Lo Lamo B'Gan Eden Tehei Menuchato Ana Bal Harachamim Hastireu B'Seiter Knafecha La'olamim Utzror B'Tzror HaChayim Et Nishmato Adonai Hu Nachlato V'Yanuach B'Shalom HaMishkavo V'Nomar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and the pure to the soul of Don Shuman, who has gone to his eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May his soul be bound up in the bond of life. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. Amen. My friends, at this point comes a rather emotional ask. It is tradition for those present physically to put in earth on our loved one. Look upon this as we send our loved one back to the earth from whence we all come. This is about the earth embracing us in our final moments. I'm going to ask, oh, DJ is already set up. Before we do that, we have some earth from the land of Israel. It's traditional to sprinkle that into the grave. Jews all over the world do this, and this is a way we symbolize our unity, that we all come from the same place.
Doug, you and Dennis. Just take and hold it right there. You can each just sprinkle just a little. You can do it individually together.
Careful. Thank you. Can you instruct and we'll do the Kaddish?
Yeah.
Atur tamim palo, kol dracham nishmat, el etnav ein ovel, tzadik yashar hu. Atur tamim bechol poal, miyomar lo matufal, ashalim b'mata ub'ma'al, Le'nid u'mechayeh, morid she'ol vaya'al. Atur tamim b'chol ma'aseh, mi yomar lo ma'taseh, ha'omer v'yoseh, chesed chinam lanu taseh, u'v'zvud ha'nekat tiseh, hakshiva v'aseh. Tzadik b'chol racham, hatzur tomim, erech hapayim u'malei rachamim, chatelna v'chutzna al avot u'banim, ki lecha adon haslichot v'harachamim. Tzadik ata Adonai l'hamid u'l'hachiot, asher b'yadcha pimdon kol ruchot, chalila lecha zichronenu limchot, v'yunaynecha b'rachim aleinu v'kuchot, ki lecha Adon harachamim v'haslichot. Sorry. Adam ben shana yichye, o elef shanim yichye, ma yitzolo v'lo haya yichye, baruch dayan ha'emet, me'id u'michayeh. Baruch yebetino, v'shoteina kol beino, u'v'shalem le'adam cheshbono v'dino, v'hakol lishmo hodayiteinu. ידענו אדוני כי צדק משפטך, תצדק בדוברך ותזכה בשופטיך, ואין להרהר אחר מידת שופטיך, צדיק אתה אדוני וישר משפטך. דיין אמת, שופט צדק באמת, ברוך דיין האמת, שכל משפטיו צדק באמת, נפש כל חי בידיך, צדק מלא ימינך, רחם על פליטת צאן ידיך, ותאמר למלאך, ערב ידיך. גדול העיצה מרב העלויה, אשר עיניך פקוחות על כל דרכי בני אדם, ותן איש בדרכיו ובכפרי מעלליו, והגיתי אשר אדוני צורי ולא עוולת בו. Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, Yehi shem Adonai nevorach, Yehu rachum yichaper avot v'lo yashchit, Ve'ir ba'al lashiv abo, V'lo ya'ir kol chamato. Gadal v'yitkadash shemei rabba v'yalma divrach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei b'chayecho u'v'yomecho u'v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael ba'agala u'v'zman kariv imru amen yehei shmei rabba mevarach li'ala mulal me'amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar, v'yitalev, v'yitalal, Shmei dekudesha, brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran bi'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Oseh shalom b'mromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael.